This was not a good performance by Mamelodi Sundowns. It was not a classic performance. It was not the type of Sundowns we've seen over the past few months. But there's reasons. And I want to be fair. When you heavily rotate a team, you find out a lot of the time which players fit into your system, which players don't, which players are ready to play, and which players aren't. You can ask Orlando Pirates when they played versus Magesi, when Abokim Viudi were not clicking the way that they normally click. This is what we saw of this Mamelodi Sundowns team today. We saw Mkhulise come in, we saw Mudiba in midfield, we saw Mokwena come back into the team, Ribeiro was out wide, Shalulile was up the middle. And I think now we know a little bit. Now we have a little bit more information. And maybe Coach Mangoba is right in saying that some of these players cannot fit in the type of football that he wants to play. It doesn't mean they're bad players though. I don't want to go and make it seem as though these guys are bad, but it doesn't mean they're bad players. It just means that, Kutsia's 6 does so much more than Mokwena can do at 6. Kutsia's 6 can progress the ball. He's very important in there. I always speak about Kutsia, Allende, and Ribeiro being very important to the first team Gamangoba. So when Mokwena is playing 6 and he can't move the ball up the way, or he keeps playing back passes and things like that, it takes away his strengths, and his strengths are breaking up opposition play and maybe playing that simple pass. So maybe Umangoba was right with leaving him out of the team in terms of tactically. Shalulile and Reyners are two different players. Where Reyners and Matthews play sort of a Saleng type winger, where you come inside and play like that, Ushalulile can't give you that type of play. Sorry to interrupt this video, but I need a little bit of your help. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can probably see my subscribe account. And if you can, I'd be very grateful if you would subscribe. That is actually the best way to support this channel, because the bigger that number is, the better it looks to potential guests and other brands and companies that I will approach for sponsorship. It may seem like a very small thing to ask for, but it actually helps with all of this. Thank you very much. Let's get back to the video. When you look at Ribeiro at number 10 versus Ribeiro out wide is a different type of game. He was lost a lot of this game to the point where he had to drop in and try play the ball. Try play the ball. I think second half they allowed him to play that 10 role a little bit, but he didn't have the outlets that he normally has. And it doesn't mean that Mamelodi Sundowns didn't create chances and in play in patches. I think the first 15 minutes from Sundowns had an intensity. They played, they tried to, finish the game very early. But once we got to 25 minutes and onwards, the game started to open up. And on Mamelodi Sundowns' side, I think what worries me about Mamelodi Sundowns in this case is those bench players became too relaxed at some point. They weren't necessarily playing this game as hard as they could. They weren't showing that they wanted to win back their positions or to make a case for themselves coming into certain positions at Mamelodi Sundowns that maybe we all know now there's a Mangoba team, for example. So that was a little bit worrying. I want to give credit to Royal AM. If I'm being honest, I want to give credit to Royal AM. And I want to give credit to Royal AM from the standing of, I usually know a Royal AM versus Sundowns game to be a game that Royal AM comes out in a low block and they try and survive. But we saw a team that was willing to play out from the back. Yes, did they make a mistake for the goal? Sure. But for the rest of the time, they broke Sundowns' press quite a few times. It wasn't a full press, but they broke Sundowns' press a few times, and that goalkeeper looked really comfortable at the back with having the ball. 1. They played with a back 3, which is a very interesting decision to make versus Mamelodi Sundowns. They did change back to a 4 at some point. But the most interesting part, and where I give Royal AM credit for this game, is the front 3 was actually playing and pressing in Mamelodi Sundowns. I don't know if it's the Rangachiva viral effect that people have now come to the conclusion that you can bully a Sundowns defense. We saw a couple of balls that were played in, and Usera was basically fighting with Mamelodi Sundowns' defense, winning some of those battles and putting them under pressure that way. But like I said, I do want to give credit to Royal AM. Now, was it Royal AM being slightly better, or was it Sundowns being bad today? You can decide. But I'm only speaking about what I'm seeing in this game. A pattern that Mamelodi Sundowns has to look out for, in my eyes, is they don't know how to close out games. And luckily up to this point, they usually have done the job. They're 2-0 up, they're 3-0 up, at some points 4-0 up, and it doesn't matter what you do to them in the last 20-25 minutes, they've already covered it. But I don't think this should become a habit that they make, because that's how they got knocked out of the CAF Champions League, falling asleep at the end. And it's more of the loss of control that scares me, because we've seen Marumo Gallants fine 4-0 down at the time, I think it was, or 3-0 down at the time, come back and start playing. They had confidence in their game. They actually came out and started playing. You saw Royal AM getting the goal in the last minute, almost getting another one, but also creating a lot of chances from their play. There's been places where they could have also taken advantage of Mamelodi Sundowns, if not for some great defensive work. But it's a worry that you're under pressure versus a Royal AM at the end of games like that. That's not supposed to happen, right? And when it comes to now playing in the Champions League, where you've lost out because of how you've performed in the last 20-25 minutes of games, it's something they need to fix, and they need to fix it now, because you're going to give the wrong team confidence. And you'll have a 1-goal lead, and Royal AM will score a fluke 1 goal. Then it becomes a tough game to close out. So Mamelodi Sundowns really has to look out for that. Over and above that, look guys, it wasn't the best game. It wasn't a good game overall. But I think that once again, Mamelodi Sundowns has shown that they don't need to play a good game to go and win. Right? Similar to Pirates. I know a lot of people didn't like the fact that I said that Pirates didn't play well, but I did give them credit to say that those are the games that if you're chasing Sundowns, you need to win those games. There's this thing that's happening when we speak about football, when we speak about Mamelodi Sundowns specifically, where people remember Rulani Sundowns a certain way. They don't remember that a lot of the games last season were those type of games where it was ugly, where Sundowns couldn't get their foot on the ball properly, and by that I mean they were attacking but they were fighting a low block and complaining about low blocks and all that. Then Rulani would make the changes at the end to nick a win via a mistake or a defensive slip or something like that. They were ugly. So this conversation about wanting to go back to Rulani's game and not giving credit to Coach Manqoba for essentially doing some of the same things, winning these type of games, is a very weird conversation to be had. I want to give credit to John Maduka, like I said, trying all these things, knowing that Royal AM transfer ban, they have those problems, DDC's out there, they haven't been really beefing up that team even before the transfer ban like that. I want to give credit to John Maduka. I feel sorry for him, but I like that Royal AM actually came out and played today. Yes, it's a 2-1 loss, but it's 2-1 loss to Loftus Versfeld, in Loftus Versfeld to Mamelodi Sundowns, and you didn't roll over, which is a very good thing, and I wish more teams could come with that type of attitude. Now, can you do it versus Mamelodi Sundowns' first team RMR? Can you do it versus a team that has Kutsi and Allenda? I don't think so, but it's a good sign. And yeah, I think the last thing I just want to say is, guys, games like these happen, and let's not make it seem as though the players are all bad and whatever. Sometimes the system just doesn't suit you. Sometimes it's just not your day, and sometimes, you have to. Maybe they'll go back and change the scheme for some of these guys. I don't foresee Mokwena playing well in this type of setup. I see a lot of them struggling. Shalulile, I don't think he's the first choice striker anymore. Reyners has jumped him. We'll see how it plays out in the Champions League. But anyway, guys, Mamelodi Sundowns 2-1 win versus Royal AM. 3 points in the bag for Sundowns. They stay unbeaten, go back to the top of the log. And yeah, they see out another game. Thank you guys so much for joining me.